I'm not gonna say it's a division or a divide, but what I will say, there's two different ways of thinking, two different logics, two different ways of thinking, two different approaches. And if I'm gonna be perfectly honest, both actually have valid points. Both of them actually have valid points. What's up, YouTube? Boy, back once again with another sport topic. And today we're gonna talk some basketball, Orlando Magic basketball. Today we're gonna continue the whole conversation about the whole Orlando Magic making the play for Donovan Mitchell. I'm not gonna say push all their chips to the middle of the table because that's one what they be doing. But will they? Is it worth the risk to move certain assets to acquire an all-star like Donovan Mitchell? We're gonna break down the pros and the cons, and actually, is it really worth the risk? We're gonna break it down. But before we do that, like I've been telling y'all before, if you liking the content, make sure you liking the channel. Make sure you comment on the channel. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you sharing the videos on all social media platforms. Any social media platform you use, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, any type of social media platform you use, make sure you sharing those same. Make sure you sharing the videos on those same social medias. Also, follow me on social media as well. The links in the description below. Also, we're giving away 30 days free with Amazon Prime. The link is in the description below that as well. So if you don't have Amazon Prime, the link is in the description. Hit that, get that link, get your free 30 days of Amazon Prime. Follow me on social media. Share this video on social media. Share the channel. Like the channel. Comment on the channel. Share the videos. And let's get the channel growing and growing and growing. Now, like in the last video, like I told y'all about the proposal for the Orlando Magic to make a play for All-Star Donovan Mitchell. And the proposal was Jonathan Isaac, Jalen Suggs, Cole Anthony, 3 first-round picks, and 2 swaps. And I've seen a lot of different people say a lot of different things. I've seen a lot of people just gung ho like, "Hey, yeah, let's go do it. Let's go get this play. This is what we need to do." And then I heard a lot of people being very, very, "No, we don't need to do that. We don't need to do that." And it, it makes sense on both sides. Now, I'm the same person who dropped the video right after when free agent first started and said the Magic were genius because they want long-term flexibility. There was no reason to go out there and throw bad money at a Zach LaVine or anything like that. You know, Zach LaVine's is a good player, but throwing bad money, getting long-term contracts, getting yourself tied up in contracts, or trying to make a play for a Kevin Durant or something like that, like gutting your team and gutting your franchise to make those type of plays and things like that would be the absolute wrong move. This Donovan Mitchell move is actually different. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I'm actually 55-45. I'm leaning 55% on staying packed as the Orlando Magic is right now. But I'm 45% of the actual play for the Donovan Mitchell. And that right there in itself is basically, in the nutshell, should basically tell you exactly how close this does to actually make sense. Why this actually does make sense. Like I told y'all before, Donovan Mitchell actually kind of fits the timeline. He's 25 years old. Like, of course, not going after Kevin Durant. He's in his 30s, or some of these other guys. They are older guys, and Donovan actually fits the timeline. Donovan is a 3-time All-Star, 3 consecutive. He's been All-Star game the last 3 consecutive years. He is yet to score less than 20 points in the season. His rookie year, he scored 20. Then he would score 23 the following year, 24, 25, and 26 points per a year. So he's a very dynamic scorer, leading scorer with the Jazz. The Jazz constantly are in the playoffs in the West. So making the play for Donovan Mitchell, I think, does make sense in a nutshell. But then also, people talking about it doesn't make sense because we have a young core and want to see some of these guys develop and things like that. And that makes sense as well. I mean, especially if you're trying to recreate the whole '90s Magic, which was a young team that ended up making the finals. They made the right decision. Now, of course, Shaq left, and that kind of basically blew up everything. But the acquiring the talent, same thing with Golden State. That's why Golden State is the dynasty that there is now, because of their main guys, their core guys they brought together. The Oklahoma City Thunder blew it up a little bit too early, prematurely, by getting rid of James Harden for nothing, basically. But even though they still had Kevin Durant and Westbrook for a while, they never reached that finals like they did back in 2012, the last time James Harden was on Oklahoma City Thunder. So there's different ways of doing it. And if you're on that standpoint, if that's your logic, if that's okay, we want to keep the youth because of something like that, I get it. And I actually agree. That's why I say I'm 55% leaning towards not making the play for Donovan Mitchell for keeping the core, keeping everything the way it is right now. But 45% that Donovan Mitchell might be the play. This might be the move to make. Like I said, he fits the timeline. He's 25 years old, and that basically gets you. I mean, because as of right now, outside of Terrence Ross, who I think won't be on the roster by the time the trade deadline gets here, and then also Gary Harris, who you just re-signed. The oldest guy on the roster is Jonathan Isaac and Markelle Fultz at 24. I think technically, I think Mo Wagner is 25, but I'm talking about the guys who you're counting on. All those guys are young, so you add in Donovan Mitchell, puts him right. That means 25. He'd be 26 by the time the season starts. Or in the beginning of the season, he'll end up being 26. But he still fits that same timeline. So as far as the age standpoint, you still will have him. He's under contract for 4. He's under contract for 4 years. He has a player option in the fourth year of that contract. So you'll have him under contract guaranteed for at least 3 years, possibly 4. More likely he will opt out because players normally, when they have an opt out, they normally opt out. Like even when they re-sign with a team, they normally opt out. Only time they don't opt out is if it's a player who knows they're not going to get that money on the open market. Like Westbrook is not going to opt out because he's not going to make $45 million or $47 million, whatever his contract is, on the open market right now. So he's going to stay opt-in because he's knows he's not going to make that money going out as a free agent. So that's the only time players don't opt out. Normally, players will opt out because they're trying to extend the contract and get more guaranteed money and things of that nature. So that the contract will stand more. Just say he's under the contract for the next 3 years. So, and it will speed up the timeline of what the Magic need to do, because as of right now, like I said, I think the Magic should be competing for the play-in this season, in the 2023 season. The 2024 season, I think they should be a team that should be in the playoffs without the play-in, like the 6th seed, the 6th seed, the 5th seed, and then the following season be a team that actually win a playoff series. Cause you know, the next 2 years, I ain't saying anything about winning play-in games or playoff series. Just get into the conversation. In 3 years, they should actually be winning playoff series, and then in 4 years, it should be a team, a legitimate top 4 team, able to win a playoff series or 2 and get to the conference championship game. That's the type of trajectory I'm talking about as of currently constructed. You add in Donovan Mitchell, that speeds it up. But you add in Donovan Mitchell, you need to be a playoff team without a play-in this season and win a playoff series, because that's the type of time you should be on when you acquire somebody like Donovan Mitchell. Now, if you're like I said, if your standpoint, you don't want to break up the young core, okay, cool. If your standpoint is that you don't want to make the trade because 2 things I've heard: draft capital, and then the players who are involved in the trade. And actually, it's 3 things, and then also the third one is, not right now. Let's wait and see, because players always come available. You can get somebody else. You don't need to go out and get Donovan Mitchell. I think all 3 of those logics are pretty much flawed. And the reason why I say that, when it comes to the draft capital, you're talking about 3 first-round picks and 2 pick swaps. So which means in the next 5 seasons, basically they will have your picks. Okay. You have the Denver pick in 2025, and you have the Chicago pick this year in 2024. So you still have a first round pick, either you'll have your own first round pick, or you're giving them their first round picks. I know their picks are protected, so more than likely Utah won't take their picks, but who knows? And then with the pick swaps, I highly doubt that those will hurt the Magic at all. The reason why is because you'll be sending them Suggs, Jonathan Isaac, and Cole Anthony, because that's the proposal that was brought up in the West. They're not going to be like, the only way that will hurt you is if they made the playoffs and you don't make the playoffs, or if you had like the number 1 seed. I mean, you had the number 1. You win the number 1 pick, or you win the top 5 pick, and they are outside the top 5 and they swap you. That's the only time those things will actually hurt you. Because other than that, I don't really think they'll even exercise those pick swaps, because they wouldn't need to. And those players that I just named going to the West, they can get you to the playoffs in the East. You think they're going to be in the playoff in the West? And then you have Donovan Mitchell, who was in the playoff in the West. Don't you think him on a team in the Magic would be able to make the playoffs in the East? Just on when it comes to the pick swaps, just you made the playoffs, so you won't be in the lottery. They won't make the playoffs. They will be in the lottery. They're not going to exercise those pick swaps. And then I'm not really tripping about those other three picks because even if you give them your picks or if you're able to give them the Chicago pick or the Denver pick, whatever, it's not. It's really is. I don't think those chickens will come to roost. I don't think that those things will hurt you. Not to mention, if you worried about giving up high draft capital because you want to be in the lottery in the top 5 pick, that means you really don't have confidence in the players that you have outside Apollo. Probably, you really don't think that you really think that you're going to be in the lottery anyway. Because if you're going to be in the lottery and that with Donovan Mitchell, you're damn sure going to be in the lottery with these guys who you're going to be sending off to the Jazz. So in that same logic, that means you don't really have that much confidence in those players. So therefore, why don't you try to move those players for a superstar? Because one of the arguments I had to counter that is, like I said, people talking about the certain players they didn't want to give up. The player that most people talk about they don't want to give up is Jonathan Isaac. I get it. Jonathan Isaac, the last time we seen Jonathan Isaac play, he's going to be Defensive Player of the Year, at the very least in that conversation to be Defensive Player of the Year. And I think he definitely has the talent to be Defensive Player of the Year. But the truth of the matter is that Jonathan Isaac has not played in 2 seasons. And it's going to get to a point that you can't sit up here and bank and count on him. He might not ever miss another game ever in his career outside of, back-to-back you rest him type situation, load management type situations. Who knows? But you don't know that. The odds are he'll miss more games. So, and like I said, him and Donovan Mitchell were in the same draft. You can't sit up here and tell me that Donovan Mitchell's not a better player than Jonathan Isaac. If you think that Jonathan Isaac is a better player than Donovan Mitchell, you're too much of a homer right now. Like that's just being honest. Like if you think Jonathan Isaac is a better player than Donovan Mitchell, because it's just not the case. And if Donovan Mitchell does not even advance, if Donovan Mitchell does not progress, if Donovan Mitchell stays at the level he's at right now, it's going to take a lot for Jonathan Isaac just to get to that level. Let alone if Donovan Mitchell grows as a player. Again, still just 25 years old. So, I think if that's your hang up, I seen the comment, which actually a good counter argument to that standpoint, when people said holding on to players is kind of the reason why we're in the situation we're in now, because people didn't want to move on from Vooch and people didn't want to move on from AG and things of that nature. And it's kind of the same situation that we're in now, because if you date back to 2019, and this is not me hindsight 2020, go look at the videos. I said this after we lost to the Raptors. Yeah, after we lost to the Raptors in 2019, that the Magic don't need to re-sign Vooch. Now I understand the reason why they did it. Hey, you just made the playoffs. This guy made an All-Star game. You in the longest playoff drought in the East. Just had first All-Star since Dwight Howard. It's kind of hard to explain to the fan base why you're not going to re-sign this guy. But that team had a ceiling, and you've seen how quickly the Magic eject, because the Magic could have stayed the course, because you could explain the 2020 season. For obviously Jonathan Isaac was hurt, then Markelle gets hurt. It's COVID. It's a lot of things. You can explain that season, and you didn't have to eject. And then, like I said, AG requested a trade, but Vooch didn't. It was a shock that Vooch got traded. Vooch even said he was shocked that he got traded. So they knew that team had a ceiling, and more so they knew that cast of guys, that Vooch and all that actually had a ceiling, and they wasn't going to do too much with that cast of team. Sometimes holding on to players for too long, you kind of miss out on certain opportunities. So now we go back to the whole thing that I hear and see that talking about that there's going to be other players that coming available you don't have to make the play for Donovan Mitchell. These are some players that will become. These are a list of players that potentially become available over the next couple of years. Not saying these guys are, but just around the same timeline, potentially could become available. Bam Adebayo, Devin Booker, Luka, Joel Embiid, De'Aaron Fox, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., Jason Tatum, Andrew Wiggins, Trae Young, Zion, Ja, Brandon Ingram, Anthony Edwards, LaMelo Ball. Those are the guys that could potentially become available over the next couple of years. Get fed up with their team or whatever the case may be. Free agents, all different type of ways that these guys can come available. Not saying none of these guys can't come available, but just saying some of these guys can. The reason why waiting for one of these guys to come available is flawed is because comparing them to the whole Donovan Mitchell situation right now. When you're talking about Booker, Luka, Embiid, Tatum, Trae Young, Zion, LaMelo, and Edwards. Those guys are all going to be way more expensive. You're going to be unloading a lot. It's not just going to be Suggs, Isaac, Cole, and some picks. It's going to be, you're going to have to give a lot of stuff for those guys because all those guys outside of Wiggins and not Wiggins, but outside of guys like LaMelo and Anthony Edwards, because we don't really know just yet. Most of those guys are actually better than Donovan Mitchell is. Now, guys like De'Aaron Fox, Bam, are not as good. They'll call you less, but do that really move the needle for you? So Shai could be Shai is somebody. Okay, if you can get Shai in a couple years, because Shai looks like he could be a prolific scorer. That's cool. He'll probably be cheaper than Donovan Mitchell possibly could be. Same thing with Bi. Brandon Ingram possibly be cheaper than what Donovan Mitchell is. So those guys, same thing. Maybe Michael Porter Jr., but he has injury history, injury concerns himself. Those guys could be cheaper, but everybody else is either going to be more expensive because they're better players, or they're going to be way cheaper because they're not as good players. Like I say, outside of Shai and Bi, I'm not real nobody else is. I'm willing to, because like I say, people like Zion and Ja Morant, they're gonna be way more expensive, and they're way better players. So that's the difference. So right now, Donovan Mitchell fits your timeline from an age standpoint. I think you pairing him with Paolo shows that you're a legitimate team and that you're really serious about winning, that you're really serious about being competitive. I'm not talking about proving it to people on ESPN like Stephen A. Smith or other analysts and things like that. One, you want to prove it to your fan base because you want them to buy merchandise and things like that. You want them to fill out the stadium and things like that. But more so proving it to the team, and more so proving it to somebody like Paolo, because the Magic have had in this history has had 3 number 1 picks before Paolo. Now, one of them was in conjunction with Shaq, because you traded and you paired Penny up with Shaq. But Shaq and Dwight Howard, respectively, and I'm talking about those two specifically, because you end up losing both of them to the Lakers. And you lost them for basically different reasons. With Shaquille, you were hesitant to give him $100 million. I think that's not the issue. No longer with any team in the NBA. When they have a superstar caliber player, they ready to give him. They ready to pay him. Like, there's very seldom that they are hesitant on paying anybody. That's why you got people like De'Aaron Fox getting rookie max deals who really don't deserve them and things like that. Because teams they're not hesitant on paying players, so you don't have to worry about that. But when it comes to Dwight, you didn't want to do certain things that Dwight wanted to do. Like, Dwight wanted the Magic to go out there and trade for Chris Paul. You didn't, because you wanted to hold on and you were loyal to Jameer Nelson. I'm a huge Jameer Nelson fan. But that was wrong. The Magic should have went after Chris Paul. Should have went after CP3. Who knows if you go after CP3 and Dwight stays, doesn't get hurt, doesn't have the back situation, who knows what happens to that Magic team. So, you making a trade for Donovan Mitchell, that's going to show Paolo, hey, this team really believes in me because they want to build around me. They give me my co-star because I think that Paolo will be the main. Paolo is the centerpiece regardless, and I think that because I don't think Donovan is the number one player on the championship team. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think he's the number one player on the championship team. I think he's a damn good number two on the championship good team. If you have a legitimate number one, I think Paolo has the potential to be that number one. You give him that number two right off the bat. Like I say, you got him. You're gonna have him on the contract for 3 years. And though people want to talk about, ain't nobody coming to Orlando. One, he doesn't have a no trade clause, so he will get traded wherever Utah wants to trade him to. Wherever gets the best package, Utah will give up. And the Magic have the best package. Now, part of the reason why I'm like 55, keeping it with the team, I have no issue with Suggs and J.I. My main thing is Cole, and not because I know you probably like, we usually got on people about trading for Jonathan Isaac. Now you want to keep on Cole. I think Cole's a glue guy. I think Cole might be like one of those like little screws, like little pieces, like hey, it's a little small piece, but if you remove that piece, you got all this big $1,000 equipment, $100,000 equipment, and it no longer works because you moved that one little piece out. I think Cole might be that glue piece. And I don't think you want to tamper with team chemistry. Now, if you could try to see if you could throw in Terrence Ross or RJ Hampton, I don't know about how the salaries, I'm not going to act like I'm a capologist, how that mixes in and matches. But I would prefer that. But even as the deal stands right now, if they traded for Donovan Mitchell, I'm not upset. Even though I would hate to lose Cole, I would not be upset. Because, like I said, I would lean towards keeping the roster the way it is. But if they make the play for Donovan Mitchell, it puts them on the faster track. Of course, that means you got to start winning playoff series, and things like that. But I do think it shows the Magic being aggressive. Like I say, it kind of helps something that you're going to figure out down the road anyway, and that's what you're going to do with Jonathan Isaac, Paolo, and Franz. And Chuma. What are you gonna do with Markelle Fultz, Cole Anthony, RJ Hampton, and Suggs? Like you have potential log jams that you will have to figure out within the next 2 seasons anyway. You moving 3 of those pieces clears up that log jam, and you draw a line to saying exactly who your starting 5 is, who your next 5. Everything is already set on who's where, and where. So it makes a lot of sense. It makes a whole lot of sense. And it fits the timeline more so than when people don't say, don't do it. It fits way more than you really think it does. Like seriously. That's the reason why I think that's the reason why a lot of people are so hesitant, because they're not used to things fitting. Or that's just pie in the sky. It's absurd. Like trading for Kevin Durant would be stupid. It'd be dumb. Trading for Kyrie Irving would be dumb. Trading for Damian Lillard would be stupid as well. Trading for Devin Booker would be dumb. Like trading for some of these other players would be dumb. You know what, Devin Booker, because it costs too much. Because Devin Booker is young himself. But a lot of these other guys are older. They're pushing 30, if not in their 30s, or it's going to cost way more. Donovan Mitchell is a young guy with the talent, with the scoring capability. I think fits very well on side Paolo and Markelle Fultz and Franz Wagner. Like you put him in that starting 5 of Markelle, Franz, Paolo, and Wendell, and you put Donovan at the shooting guard. He fits in that starting 5 extremely well. Extremely well. And as of right now, and possibly the next year, he'll probably be the leading scorer, and then Paolo will take that pressure off of him as well. And you talk about potentially 2 guys averaging 45 to 50 points a game. I'm talking about like as far as collectively, those 2 guys by themselves will be giving you 45 to 50 points a game. That's a lot. That's a big 2. That's a 2 that could get you somewhere. So I understand the reason why people want to pull the trigger. I do. But I also understand why people don't want to pull the trigger, because you don't want to break up this young core. I understand. I get it. I definitely do. Like, subscribe if you haven't, comment below if you haven't, click that bell, get more videos. I holla.